JCPenney. Once upon a time, back in my working days, I rented from an older black woman. I think that was back in the 90s, mid-90s. And I'd estimate she was probably in her 70s, maybe 80s. She refused to shop there. I asked her why. She explained to me that back in the Jim Crow era, segregation era, JCPenney's used to, like a lot of stores back then, had segregation. If black people wanted to buy their goods, they of course had to use different entrances, and they had different protocols. If you wanted to buy a pair of shoes, they would stuff the shoe, like a dress shoe, not sneakers. They didn't have sneakers back then, not like they do today. They'd stuff the shoe with old newspapers, because after all, you didn't want the black person's foot actually going into the shoe. And the same thing would be true for when they bought hats. Back then, men wore a lot of fedoras. So, you did your best, you know. And of course, if you got home and the shoe was too big or too small, you know, getting your money back was tricky. Because after all, you're black. You're not equal. You're low income. You know, stores could treat you like garbage because, after all, you weren't seen as anything particularly valuable. Oh, but how things have changed today. Now, well, look how they roll out the red carpet for you. Living room setups. Open to all races, all sexual orientations, the abled and the disabled. That is indeed tremendous progress. But before we could get to that progress, and by the way, I want to specify that it's the mall itself that puts out this loveliness, not so much JCPenney. But given their financial state, if they thought setting up a couple of living rooms inside their store would generate profit, they'd do it. But my point is that the progress that was made, it did not come without sacrifice. You know, I believe Congressman Carl Lewis can definitely tell you a few things about that. He was there when the dogs were there, during the protest, the marches, the lunch counter protests. Something that I'm thinking very seriously about staging over here at our Mays Landing McDonald's. Re-entering the establishment, daring them to call the cops, daring the cops to hoist me away, because I will not get up and walk if I do it. They will have to handcuff me and drag me out. It will be an old-fashioned lunch counter protest. My money is as good as the next person's. Once again, we see the strife over civil rights and how it never comes unless there has been tremendous sacrifice. Hard fought, hard won. The fight continues. All right, today I want to talk some more about the Jewish Family Services ordeal. An ordeal in and of itself that came about because, you know, this organization felt that I did not have the right to my First Amendment rights, and that they themselves had the right to treat me in an abusive fashion and then just simply walk away, leaving the wreckage behind. Today, instead of getting into the documentation portion of it, I want to talk about the tech. We're going to be talking about the history of what happened, what led up to it, and some of the technology. So yeah, that's what we're going to cover today. All right, for those of my newer subscribers, people who might not necessarily know, what in the world led to the Jewish Family Services controversy, well, this is what happened. In 2014, I excuse me, hold on. I want to get my dates right. Was it 14 or 15 that I was arrested? I'll say 14. All right. Okay, so because it was like right at the end of the year, the changing of the year. It was God, what was this? When I had my bad cycling accident, the thing that caused me to become physically disabled, it was like toward the end of the year, either November or December. I'm pretty sure December. I had the accident. I had the surgery. I was on temporary disability initially. Then during that temporary disability, my employer terminated me because at the end of it, my surgeon physician, he wrote countless prescriptions, notes, all type of things, communicating to my employer, which would be Admiral Security, that I should be allowed back to work with my special accommodation. I required a leg brace, and for prolonged standing and walking. Yes, I can get up, stand, and walk without it, but for prolonged employment purposes, it just simply isn't possible. If you pay close attention to some of my longer blogs while I'm standing, I start to sound like I'm getting out of breath. Believe me, it's not because I'm a fat person standing. That isn't it. I used to hear a lot of drug addicts say that pain will cause your blood pressure to rise and to become winded. I thought they were just their drugs talking, which might be, but turns out they were right. That's my point. It does. It exacerbates you, the pain. The longer I stand, the more painful it becomes. Think of it like this. I used to think that people who own thoroughbreds, when a thoroughbred would fall, break their legs, and have the surgery, get it repaired, I thought these owners were being cruel and maniacal by killing the horse rather than just simply putting them into retirement. Now that I have an injury that isn't, well, I don't want to say similar because I know very little about a horse's anatomy. But the point is that I know what it feels like. The longer you stand, every minute, every second, it just gets more and more painful. I start rocking back and forth to try and alternate the weight between the both legs, and it just gets unbearable. Anyway, so that's why I wasn't employable. Then temporary disability ran out. I'm now terminated. I go to unemployment. While unemployment was running out, not only was unemployment running out, but also where I was living, the cabin in the woods, that was also coming to an end because I could only stay there during the summer, fall, if any. But by the time winter rolls around, you got to be gone. I am now facing, because I had lived with housing insecurity the bulk of my life, but this is be the first time that I would be facing full-blown homelessness with absolutely nowhere to go. Couple that with the fact that all of the social services are calibrated for single women with children. I have no idea if she's actually single or whatnot. Probably was wrong that I did that, but anyway. The point that I'm making is that, I went down to the county welfare building, a bunch of other places, looking to see what kind of safety nets were there for people like me who worked their entire life and paid their taxes their entire life, only to learn that there's absolutely nothing. This culminated into a lot of psychological trauma, a lot of fear, and yes, a lot of anger. A lot, in this case, centered around anger and vilifying anger. People are angry. I paid my taxes. I have a right to be angry, okay? This isn't just simply a case of angry black man, oh my God, savage, wild. No, I have a right to be angry. Anyway, we're now at October the 3rd, 2014. I made my suicidal intentions known. It's hard thinking about it and talking about it. I was ready to kill myself in front of the State House. There was an article, NewJerseyNJ.com or something like that. They get a few of the details wrong. I've reached out to the person that wrote the article in an email, wishing to give my side of the story. Of course, they don't have the fucking balls to actually reach back out to me. So, so much for impartial journalism, right? Anyway, state police issue an arrest warrant with no victim for terroristic threat. Who did I threaten? You know, nobody was threatened. But when you're poor, black, and homeless, they don't have to get the details right. They can just simply wing it and hope to fill in these details later. Because after all, we're talking about terrorism, right? We can just pretty much suspend people's rights and, you know, just kind of hope for the best, right? I mean, after all, it's not like we're going to piss off anybody that's of any particular importance. Arrested, an armada. It's hard talking about the arrest as well. You can't get the visions of the guns being drawn on you. It wasn't just simply one or two guns. They all had guns. They were screaming. To this day, I have a lot of nightmares, night terrors. It wakes you up. It prevents you from having the proper amount of REM sleep. Anyway, I'm moving on from that. I was released. I really don't want to talk about what happened in jail. I think you guys pretty much already know. I was sexually assaulted by the prison doctor, Dr. Zar. I really don't feel like saying his name either tonight. Anyway, I was released. There were certain things that I had to do. One of the things was get the judge that released me. He wanted me to have mental health services. Now, I know that there's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with the system. There's something wrong with government, okay? But I went through these hoops and I jumped through these hoops because I am hoping that maybe some of these mental health services can help me get housing, you know, to address the actual problem. Yeah, that was foolhardy to think. Hold on a second. Needed to make sure I was still recording. Alright, anyway, one of the places that I had already had a bunch of phone numbers in my phone. One of them was Jewish Family Services. I had been trying probably since 2011, 2012 to get housing because, like I said, I've been dealing with housing insecurity and part-time homelessness on and off for a great many years. So I had a whole bunch of phone numbers already. So I'm just basically calling, making the rounds on the phone, you know, who can help. I reached out to Jewish Family Services. I got in contact with Aaron Bowes. A meeting set up. We met at the Mays Landing McDonald's. She came with an adult male co-worker. I can understand why. You know, you're coming out to meet, because I explained on the phone why I had been arrested, how I had been released, and what I need now. So I can understand why she would come with, you know, a co-worker. You don't know what kind of person you're going to be meeting, right? You know, so I get it. She came, we met, did the whole assessment, set up an appointment to meet again at that McDonald's. Because like I say, at this point, I'm just full-blown homeless. And when she chose to meet with me again, you know, her male coworker was not there. Why? Because she saw that I was not crazy. I am not violent or dangerous. And this is an important detail because in Aaron, I don't know if Aaron Bowes had wrote this specifically herself or not, or was this just simply Lisa Witcowski'S character assassination, where it was written in the complaint that I had been violent and hostile all along. You know, if this is true, then why did you meet with me again? You know, why did Erin Bowes meet with me again by herself? I took her to, she wanted to know where I kept my stuff in, where I was currently keeping my stuff in storage at that moment. Cabin in the woods. Why did you put me in your vehicle? Why did you go alone with me? This black man, ooh, you know, so you were willing to go into the woods, a very secluded area, just her and I. So obviously you felt comfortable with me, you felt secure with me. We did that a couple of times. Anyway, that deals more with the clerical. When we get into the paperwork, the statements, the what do you call it? The discovery. You know, we'll talk more about that in the discovery. Hold on a second. What's that? I think it says 16 minutes. All right. Like I said, this is gonna be long. You know. I might have like another 10 minutes. All right. We're gonna start off with talking about Google. No, I guess what we're gonna do. We'll revisit Erin Bowes later on, but for the time being, to bring things along chronologically, Erin Bowes helped me with a number of, not so much with a number of things. She helped me get my disability. Okay? Erin Bowes helped me get my disability. Let's see, how can I say this? Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. I just had to pause for a moment and get my thoughts together. Alright, so, Erin Bowes, she helped me get my disability. She fell off the scope, because we're going to come back to all that later on. But she fell off the scope. You know, I was wondering, because the last meeting that I had with her, we were supposed to be putting together an actionable plan for housing. Because, you know, now that I had applied for everything and my paperwork was in and filed, next stop was housing. You know, so we put together an actionable plan, or so I thought anyway. She falls off the scope for a number of weeks, and then she resurfaces. She gives me a call, and she's all, you know, I'm sorry, I've been away for whatever the reason was. I really can't remember. Yeah, actually what we're going to be doing is we're going to be closing out your case. I was very confused by that, because our last meeting, it was all gung-ho, you know, things were about to happen. I thought that, you know, wow, you know, maybe I could actually, something good was going to happen, and something good was going to come from the horror of my arrest, my unlawful arrest and unlawful imprisonment. Could something actually good come from all of that? I was confused. She tells me that, you know, you don't qualify for anything. I also had suspicions as to the true motive as to why. Like I told you guys, I taken the name Amir. I told Erin this. I think she may have thought that it was for maybe other reasons. Maybe she felt that I had converted to Islam or whatever it was. When she learned of my chosen name, her attitude changed visibly toward me. Hey, Jews, Muslims, do I gotta say more? Okay, moving on. And of course, it's nothing at all to do with Middle Eastern or Islamic whatsoever. I've already told you guys why I chose the name Amir. So I told her, well, okay, thank you. And that was that, you know. I was confused, a little suspicious, but, you know, whatever. I was just happy that I got my paperwork in. In the next few months, Medicaid runs out, so I didn't have my mental health program anymore. And I did have my disability, though, my disability back payment. I've gone over this story with you guys as well. We'll get back to some more details on that a little bit later on. Isn't that right? Intentionally left blank. Yeah, we're going to talk about you, buddy. Anyway, so I pay off some back bills. I told you guys, Black Rider, You know? Alright, so, still suffering. Huh, gee, wow. That's the pathology of abuse. My attorney wanted me to get some counseling for the sexual abuse. I went to a place called Family Services Association. Met with the counselor. While with the counselor, she kind of picks up where Aaron Bowes left off with some case management stuff. Again, trying to get me housing and whatever services that I would apply for and whatnot. Inadvertently, because, you know, I don't want to seem reticent. I don't want to seem lazy. I want to, you know, somebody wants to help me. I want to at least be able to do the legwork involved in the help and whatnot. So at the end of our sessions, my counselor would give me these little to-do lists, and I would go about doing them. And one such took me back to the county welfare building in Atlantic City. I meet with some caseworker there. The caseworker there refers me back to Jewish Family Services. And I'm like, they kind of closed out my case. But again, because I didn't want to say to my counselor, you know, back at Family Services Association that, you know, they told me to do this, but I didn't want to do it because of, you know, then it just sounds like you're making excuses, you know. Hold on a second. All right, still recording. So there I am, once again, meeting with Jewish Family Services. I was kind of hoping it wouldn't be Aaron Bowes, but it was Aaron Bowes. And again, that's when everything happened. I really don't like talking about it. I don't want to go through it. That's where she mocked me. That's where she made fun of me. And that's where the video for that was subsequently made, okay? So that's what happened. That's what brought about the whole video, and that's what ended up bringing about the charges. All right, I'm going to end it here. It's gotten really long. I wanted to get into the tech part of it. YouTube, Google Plus, comment section and how they work. That's going to be in part 2. All right, guys, that's it for now. Hopefully you're all brought up to speed. I know everything is long, but hey, I'm doing this more so for me than anybody else. Total Control, 871.